As you prepare to come back to UNLV's campus for spring semester, you may notice your thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors changing in relation to the events of December 6th. For example, you may notice that you feel anxious or uneasy about returning to campus. This reaction is common, and there are ways to navigate these trauma responses. One way to navigate them is to notice when you are having a reaction and to know why you are responding the way that you are. During a traumatic experience, your fight, flight, or freeze response is activated. When seeing reminders such as locations, people, or things that remind you about the event, this response can sometimes be reactivated. Our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all connected. Different experiences can impact the way we think, feel, or behave. Traumatic experiences are one way in which our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors can be negatively impacted. However, the impact of these changes is often not permanent. Just as our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors can be altered by negative experiences, they can be greatly transformed by using coping skills. Again, there is no expected reaction, but there are some common responses people may have. Some people do not respond in the way they expect and seem to have no reaction at all. Whatever your response may be, know that it is valid and there are ways to navigate these reactions. During a traumatic experience, your fight, flight, or freeze response is activated to keep yourself safe. Sometimes, when you see reminders of an event, the same response can be activated. In the weeks following a traumatic event, you may notice that your thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors may change. You may notice some of these responses being reactivated when returning to campus. Most often, these changes are not permanent. Keep in mind that everyone responds differently to traumatic experiences, and while there is no expected reaction, there are some common responses that people may have. For example, many people describe changes in their thoughts, such as unwanted thoughts about the event, including replaying the event or what ifs about the event, nightmares, losing hope for the future, worrying about safety, difficulty focusing, thoughts about death and dying, or blaming themselves. Whatever your response may be, know that it is valid and there are ways to navigate these reactions. If you find yourself thinking about these events all day, every day, having difficulty completing daily tasks or schoolwork, feel isolated from others, or notice these thoughts persisting throughout the semester, reach out to CAPS. In the weeks following a traumatic event, you may notice that your thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors may change. You may notice some of these responses being reactivated when returning to campus. Most often, these changes are not permanent. Keep in mind that everyone responds differently to traumatic experiences, and while there is no expected reaction, there are some common responses that people may have. For example, many people describe changes in their behaviors, such as sleeping too little or too much, using more substances, eating too much or too little, socially isolating, changing their daily routines, avoiding certain places or reminders of the trauma, no longer engaging in important tasks, or spending more time on social media viewing posts related to the event. Whatever your response may be, know that it is valid and there are ways to navigate these reactions. If you find yourself thinking about these events all day, every day, having difficulty completing daily tasks or schoolwork, feel isolated from others, or notice these things persisting throughout the semester, reach out to CAPS. When reminded of recent traumatic experiences, you may notice that your thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors change. For example, returning to the place of a traumatic event may reactivate your fight, flight, or freeze response. You may notice some of these responses being reactivated when returning to campus. Often, these reactions and changes are not permanent. Everyone responds differently to traumatic experiences, and while there is no expected reaction, it can be helpful to know what some common responses are to identify if or when you are having a response. People will often describe feeling nervous or anxious, on edge, or keyed up, angry, irritable, or quick to get upset, disillusioned, hopeless, sad, or feelings of grief, or even feeling emotionally numb. Whatever your response may be, know that it is valid and there are ways to navigate these reactions. If you find yourself thinking about these events all day, every day, having difficulty completing daily tasks or schoolwork, feel isolated from others, or notice these things persisting throughout the semester, reach out to CAPS. When reminded of recent traumatic experiences, you may notice that your thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors change. For example, returning to the place of a traumatic event may reactivate your fight, flight, or freeze response. You may notice some of these responses being reactivated when returning to campus. Often, these reactions and changes are not permanent. Everyone responds differently to traumatic experiences, and while there is no expected reaction, it can be helpful to know what some common responses are to identify if or when you are having a response. People will often describe physical reactions like crying, having a pounding or racing heart, or feeling dizzy or lightheaded, numbness or tingling, trembling or shaking or sweating, cold or hot flashes, having headaches or stomach aches, or feeling tired. Whatever your response may be, know that it is valid and there are ways to navigate these reactions. If you find yourself thinking about these events all day, every day, having difficulty completing daily tasks or schoolwork, feeling isolated from others, or notice these things persisting throughout the semester, reach out to CAPS.
It's helpful to learn how trauma can impact you, but you might be wondering if there's more you can do to prepare for returning to campus. My name is Ariel. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a therapist at CAPS, and today we're going to chat briefly about coping ahead. Coping ahead is a way of identifying situations that might cause you some difficulty and making decisions in advance about how you'll address them. Consider it a rehearsal that improves your chances for success. Here are 5 steps. First, think about the difficult situation. Describe it with facts and list the thoughts and feelings you'll be having. You might want to write those down. Second, make a decision about what coping or problem-solving skills you can use in that setting. Can you quietly engage in a breathing exercise, arrive with a supportive person, bring a fidget toy, do a grounding exercise? What things might it be helpful to tell yourself? Think about the things that have helped you before. In the next step, imagine yourself in the difficult situation as vividly as possible, like it's happening. Fourth, visualize yourself coping effectively. Picture the specific way you'll respond and see yourself doing it successfully. Now, imagining the difficult situation might be unpleasant, so the final step is to engage in relaxation. Think about the things that work for you: a long shower, a walk outside, lighting a candle, listening to music. Remember that self-compassion is a coping skill, so above all, be kind to yourself as you're practicing new skills. We're going to talk about a type of breathing that can be used to cope with stressful situations easily and in public. It's called low and slow or belly breathing. You can do this sitting, lying down, or standing. I'd practice for the situation you find distressing. So if you're concerned about being in class, walking on campus, or getting out of bed, I'd practice in that position. You'll want to be relaxed but upright. If you're lying down, you want your spine to be pretty straight. Just while we practice, place a hand on your chest and one on your stomach. The intention is to have the hand on your belly rise while the hand on your chest stays as still as possible. We'll breathe in through the nose, then out through the mouth, with the breath out longer than the breath in. It might help to purse your lips like you're blowing out a candle. Let's practice it together. We'll breathe in for a count of 3 and out for a count of 6, and we'll do that 2 times. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In and out. Don't worry if it doesn't feel natural. You can adjust the length of the breath if needed. The most important part is that you breathe into your stomach, not your chest, and you breathe out longer than you breathe in. Try practicing it a few times a day for 5 or 10 minutes. Set reminders to practice. The more you do it in advance, the easier it'll be to use when you're distressed. And remember, keep taking things one breath at a time. When I experience anxiety, it's difficult to show up for the things that might need my attention. If you can relate, one helpful coping skill might include a grounding exercise to help you come back to the present moment. One technique is called the 5-4-3-2-1. It starts with you noticing that anxiety has pulled you out of the present moment. Then try to notice your breath without changing it. Once you've noticed your breath, walk through these 5 steps that use your senses to bring you back. Notice 5 things you can see around you: laptop, pencil, shirt, tree. Focus on 5 things visible in the space around you. Next, notice 4 things you can feel and touch: the feeling of your legs in a chair, your feet on the floor, your clothes, a pen, your hair, anything you can use to feel a sensation external to your body. Third, find 3 things you can hear: the sound of someone talking, a clock, a keyboard. Now, notice 2 things you can smell: body spray, lotion, hand sanitizer. If you're able, go to the bathroom and smell the soap, or go for a walk and find something outside. Finally, find 1 thing you can taste. Is it the taste of something in your mouth? Is there gum or mints available for you to use? Noticing through your senses provides you a tangible way to ground into the space you're in. It allows you to focus on what might be right in front of you and proceed with the next most important step. Of all of the ways to cope for the upcoming week, remember that you only need to do the one very next thing. An entire week could be overwhelming, but the next hour, minute, or even the next breath could be something you can take on.
UNLV's campus community is experiencing what is known as collective trauma in response to the December 6, 2023 campus shooting. Collective trauma refers to the impact of a traumatic experience that affects and involves groups of people, communities, or societies, such as mass shootings, pandemics, natural disasters, war, and systemic oppression. The impact of a collective trauma may feel overwhelming, like life has been turned upside down by grief, fear, and uncertainty. Members of the community may feel unsafe, limit their social interaction, and need more resources. Some groups of people are more directly exposed to or impacted by collective traumatic events. At UNLV, students and faculty of color may feel more impacted due to the demographics of the victims of the shooting and overlapping experiences of marginalization. Our community can feel fragmented and distant after a trauma, and it's important to reconnect with one another. We draw strength from each other and have great capacity for healing and surviving difficult times. It's important to recognize the impact of the tragedy and extend empathy to ourselves and others. Also, honoring and planning to care for our needs and utilizing available resources. We can create safe spaces for us to come together and care for each other and take action in our community. Continue to check out the UNLV Strong website to get connected to the most updated information about mental health resources offered at UNLV and within the community through the Las Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. While self-care is important, healing doesn't happen alone. We need community, and often our community needs us too. We can extend the principles and practices of self-care to support and nurture the well-being of our community. This might include identifying who is already part of your community, like your classmates, faculty and staff, loved ones, neighbors, friends, etc., and then identifying ways to build and strengthen connections with them. When engaging with social supports, you are helping to build a sense of belonging, inspiration, and motivation. UNLV CAPS is building community by offering in-person and virtual support groups, workshops, and tabling events across campus. And you can also request a presentation from CAPS via our website. Finding community after experiencing a traumatic event is part of reestablishing a sense of safety. Make habits of checking in regularly with your loved ones and classmates. Talk about it. Acknowledging and engaging with others fosters empathy and compassion for those affected. So, how can you build connections to your community at UNLV? Get involved, reach out to others, and try new things. Find community organizations or clubs. You can do this by checking out the UNLV Involvement Center website to find student organizations that fit you. Keep up to date with events on campus. Be sure to check out the UNLV Today email and the UNLV events calendar daily. Challenge yourself by going out of your comfort zone and attending an event. How can you build community outside of UNLV? Here are some suggestions. Volunteer with a community organization that you care about. Visit your local libraries, which often host free events. Join a recreational sports team or the UNLV intramural sports teams through our recreation center. Look for cultural and art events happening in the city. Visit a community garden or the UNLV community garden and join a mutual aid group. You can also host your own community events for loved ones and friends. For example, a potluck dinner, game night, themed movie nights, doing outdoor activities like hiking or nature walks, joining a book club, crafting, or getting involved in a community cleanup. These are just some examples of ways that you can get involved.
First off, let me say congratulations on making it to the end of your first week of the 2024 spring semester. Though this may not feel like a big deal for some, returning from winter break in general can be daunting and exhausting. This may have felt even stronger given the campus shooting on December 6, 2023. Throughout the past 2 weeks, you may have been following along UNLV CAP's reels relating to coping after trauma. If so, this video may serve as a bit of a recap, and if you've not been able to catch us in one of these formats, never fear. I will be briefly covering some of the information we have provided in this video. Responses following traumatic events can vary from person to person. As such, there is no one right way to feel. Reactions can include increased worry about safety, difficulty focusing, unwanted replaying of events in one's head, isolation from others, and avoidance of places that are reminders of the trauma. Some people also describe feeling anxious, numb, irritable, as well as some physical reactions of feeling tired, shaking, or crying. While there are many other possible reactions to trauma, most often changes are not permanent and with time and some self-care are likely to pass. With this in mind, however, it can be difficult to function or truly enjoy your time in college while experiencing these changes. To navigate this, coping can be particularly helpful. Just as some reactions to trauma can vary, so can the way we cope. Further, coping can also be something that we do both in an individual and collective manner. As a reminder, it's important to find what specifically works for you. As the reality of the new semester sets in, it is normal to experience higher amounts of stress or exhaustion than you may have experienced in semesters past. This makes a lot of sense considering any extra mental effort that you may have had to use during the past week to navigate any reactions while returning to UNLV. Given this, it can be helpful to focus on resting and recharging. Rest comes in many forms, including mental, physical, and emotional. Mental rest is useful when we find that we are feeling overwhelmed or having a difficulty concentrating. It aims to provide us with the chance to disconnect from responsibilities or tasks that may be causing us stress or require high amounts of mental energy. Some examples of mental rest include taking breaks in between doing work, reducing the use of social media, and engaging in meditation. Physical rest refers to taking a break from physical activities that are done throughout the day and focusing on restoring the body. This form of rest may be passive, which can include things like napping or laying down, but it can also be active in nature, which may include things like stretching or going on a walk. Lastly, emotional rest allows for us to take the space to recognize, process, and reconnect with our emotions and ourselves. This can be done through connecting with people we trust, journaling, spending time alone, or responding authentically to situations. It is important to keep in mind that rest looks different for different people, and finding what is restful for you may take time and practice. Regardless of which activities you choose to engage in, it is important to allow yourself the space and time to rest, recharge, and above all else, be kind to yourself. Here we are, the final video in this series. I would like to start by thanking all of you who have joined us along the way. As we look forward to the rest of the semester, there are a few key things to keep in mind. First, though there are a lot of similarities in experiencing collective trauma, it is important to honor whatever reactions may be going on for you. Each of our experiences were different in some way, and the manner in which we process and cope with these experiences may be different too. This is not only okay, but is expected. As such, it's helpful to allow yourself to experience this semester and the return to UNLV's campus as it feels authentic to you. Second, you may notice that as time goes on, you're having extended reactions, have questions about your experience, or simply a desire to talk to someone. As has been highlighted in other reels, we have many resources available for this. Additionally, UNLV CAPS does offer short-term therapy services as well as crisis support. Outside of UNLV, the Las Vegas Strong Resiliency Center is offering both in-person and online weekly support groups and have many options for individual services on their website as well. Lastly, if you're interested in accessing any additional resources for things like guided meditations or other skills, please download the Therapy Assistance Online app or the U app through the student portal. Both of these are free to active students of UNLV and can be helpful in providing additional support. Thank you all for tuning in, and be on the lookout through UNLV CAP's website and Instagram for any additional information or resources throughout this semester.